I would like to bring this meeting to order. We have numerous items related to bids that are consent items, and having received no cards, we'll just move those forward with consent. Bernard Parks is on his way, and we will vote on the consent items. Those will be items 5, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, and 14. These are annual planning reports, routine items, and they should be consent. So as soon as Mr. Parks comes, we will vote on those matters first. And with that, we can take up item number 1.
Item number 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to midterm appointments to the Workforce Investment Board for terms expiring June 30th, 2012.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. I'm Greg Irish, Director of the Workforce Investment Board. I am also staff to the mayor. I have with me two gentlemen who will be joining the Workforce Investment Board, Art Leahy to my left and Ed Morris to my right. Ed Morris is actually the Executive Director of the Adult Education Division of LAUSD. Everyone knows Art Leahy, who of course is the CEO of Metro. They will be joining a contingent of 51 members to the Workforce Investment Board, the majority of which are private sector employers. And of course, you know there's a 15% requirement for organized labor. These two gentlemen are being appointed to fill some unexpired terms of those who've resigned or retired from the private sector business that they were engaged in. They're presented before you today with two others, John Choi, who could not be here, and Aida Cardenas, who are also joining the WIB. Their appointments are going to be through June 30th of 2012, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Leahy?
Yes, sir.
Want to tell us why you want to do this?
Well, I'd be pleased to work with anybody who's trying to create jobs in this economy that we face. MTA is a big employer, about 9,500 employees. We spend a great deal of money on our various operating services and projects, and we look forward to working with the investment board to help stimulate the economy.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Same question, sir?
Pardon me?
Same question?
Same question, yeah.
We have an economic emergency here, as you know, in the city. I don't have to tell you, and that impacts 76.4% of the students in our city.
That's fine.
Who are living at or below the poverty line. At the same time, the school district enjoys about $260 million in funding for adult and career education, and we need to coordinate our activities with that of the Title I side of the Workforce Investment Board to alleviate some of those pockets of poverty around the city.
Yeah, Mr. Irish, I actually know both Ed and Art very well, but I don't know Ida and John Choi, and neither of them are here, so...
Yes. John will be representing organized labor, LA County Federation of Labor. There is a 15% requirement according to state law. 15% of the membership must be comprised of representatives of organized labor. He will be one of 7 representatives. Again, he's fulfilling the unexpired term of Ed Rendon, who was with the Teamsters and had to resign. So his appointment will be going through June 30th, 2012. His appointment's been recommended in consultation with the LA County Federation of Labor. We went to them for the recommendation. And by law, they're supposed to make a recommendation for membership on the WIB, and he's the County Labor Fed's recommendation for.
Now, I'm showing John is replacing Maria Elena Durazo.
Maria Elena, I'm sorry. Yeah, Maria Elena did replace Ed Rendon.
Ed Rendon.
Yeah.
Rendon is not on this list.
Yes. So he's going to be one of the 7 labor representatives on the WIB.
Okay. Does that mean Ed is still on, or?
Yeah, there'll be some other appointments. This is just what
Okay,
we're
you're getting ahead of yourself, is what you're telling me.
getting ahead of
Okay.
myself. What we're doing
And
is,
Aida Cardenas?
we're fulfilling, Ida's also being appointed. We're fulfilling some positions for some folks who have resigned. We'll be coming back with some additional appointments in terms of the terms of those WIB members that will expire on June 30th. So this is just our first foray. We'll be back before you again with some additional appointments.
What is the reason they could not be here?
We attempted to get them. They said they had other obligations. We really were not aware that they had to appear here in person. I thought it would have been sufficient for me to come before the committee and explain that. I was not aware that they should have also been in attendance, so that is my...
Yeah, that's custom. I think my colleagues would appreciate it if they would attend. I would like to have the opportunity to sit down with either one of them, and my colleagues may want to do the same thing. What I would recommend is that we move forward with positive recommendations for Mr. Leahy and Mr. Morris, and move forward with Cardenas and Choi without recommendation, just to get them to council, so that we have the opportunity to meet, and we give the public every reason to believe that we are thoughtful, deliberate, and considerate of our appointments. So, Mr. Parks, what I'm recommending with regard to the WIB appointments is that Mr. Leahy and Mr. Morris move forward with our recommendation for approval, and that Ms. Cardenas and John Choi, who are not present, that we give them an opportunity to meet with us in the interim, but we move their appointments forward without recommendation, and I've requested that I have the opportunity to meet with them before they go before council. And I would expect that they do go to council. I hope you will convey that to them, that it would be important for them to go to council. I mean, I don't know whether my colleagues would support them or not. I assume they would, but it gives us the opportunity to discuss the Workforce Investment Board, and I think that's important, to give them an opportunity to express why they believe it's so important. So if that meets with no objection, we'll move in that manner.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to get back to the consent items. I had items 5, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, and 14. These are all bid annual reports, routine matters. Mr. Parks moves the consent items, and those matters are approved. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is a presentation by DWP Environmental Affairs and the Housing Department in connection with job creation using American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Parks.
Go ahead.
My name is Joseph Bobbiel. I'm the staff assistant to the General Manager of the Department of Water and Power. At your request, the department prepared a report back in February, which summarized what we've done in response to last year's American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, with specific focus on the number of jobs being created from funds awarded thus far. To date, the department has submitted applications totaling approximately $500 million. Of that amount, DWP has been awarded over $100 million, or about 20% of the city's total awards received. As Mr. Freeman mentioned at our last meeting, DWP has and will continue to be focused, as he put it, like a laser beam on maximizing the number of jobs created and derived from federal stimulus-funded projects, which in our case tend to be mostly infrastructure projects, bricks and mortar, and rebar. Be advised that in order to secure the awards, each project must comport with the grant criteria, which ultimately determines the number of the jobs and types of jobs that are being created. That being said, DWP is expected to create at least 200 jobs that will be family-supporting jobs and new jobs for the city of Los Angeles. And with that, it concludes my report, sir. I'm ready to answer any questions.
I'm looking at this matrix. Do you have it?
I've seen it, sir.
Okay.
I don't have it with me, but I've seen it, sir.
Okay, now,
I think one's going to be provided.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
One of the specific things that I had raised in the ERA committee is the need to see what we can do to provide jobs for those who are being laid off as a result of, or potentially could be laid off as a result of city cutback. How are we doing in that area?
We could have a report brought back to you, but as I understand it, the city is working with the Director of Human Resources of the Department of Water and Power, Michelle Nagin, and I'd be happy to have that information furnished to you. I'm here to report specifically on the jobs for ERA. There's another list that I know is being considered of jobs being created for people who are have been labeled or are being laid off by the city of LA. It's a separate list from the list that we're working.
Oh, but they're still ERA jobs.
Yeah, we're trying to coordinate it to make sure that we're all on message, sir. So my list
there's
has to
been
do
some,
with ERA jobs. And
There's been some confusion. I think we had to reduce our total job creation by about 1,700 as a result of misinterpretation by the Department of Water and Power in terms of how to define jobs created.
actually, I appreciate you asking that question. It wasn't that we didn't understand, sir. What it was is at the time that our team began working on this, it actually preceded the formation of the ad hoc committee. Shortly after the ERA program was established, the department put together a team, and in order to supplement our analysis, we hired the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation to prepare an analysis of the job creation in relation to the projects that we were bidding on. The analysis they did was more of an economic analysis, using methodology that looked at the impacts on more of a Los Angeles County-wide type of analysis as opposed to a specific project analysis.
In other words, it calculated ancillary jobs that might have been created but not direct.
That's exactly right, sir. Kind of, I guess to put it specifically, kind of a multiplier effect across LA County as opposed to the specific projects that are being created for the city. Now, once OMB and in working with the CAO came up with a methodology that was specific to the number of projects being funded, our methodology changed, and projects from that point forward, and every project we've reported on since is in compliance with those guidelines. So LEDC's numbers were correct, sir, at the time, and they're still correct, but it's an economic forecast as opposed to a specific job creation forecast, sir.
Okay, one of the things that I don't see on this matrix is the total number of jobs created. So it's kind of hard for me to... Now, you reported them as how many?
About 200, and we furnished that in any number of sources. I guess you'd have to check with the CAO, but we have at least 3 different reports that we provide to the CAO that have all of the job creation numbers that I just mentioned, and you have to check with the CAO.
Did you have a beat on what applications are coming that DWP might be able to compete for? And
right now, we have 2 outstanding, each for about $50 million. And we're looking at projects every day. Every time an opportunity presents itself, we have these automated interfaces with the DOE that notify us of any projects that have to do with the energy or water type projects.
Are these job-focused grants?
Every one of them is different, but all of them have a jobs component. That was kind of the...
Okay, I just wanted to stress that priority number 1 is creating jobs, and some of the grants have had other focuses. Sort of, it's easy to say in hindsight because some of these applications went in before we knew how severe the crisis was going to be. Did you have a comment?
Yes, Anime Yutan from the CAO. If I may interject, I believe the 200 that he was talking about is for the Smart Grid Demonstration Program, which is not included in the spreadsheet.
Oh.
Actually, no. The 200 jobs is for the projects that we've submitted so far. I think there was some confusion at the last meeting that the 200 jobs specific to a smart grid was an application that was rejected by the DOE. The 200 I just quoted is actually, as I'm looking at the sheet, is the 200 jobs related to smart grid demonstration, the water projects, and energy efficiency projects. The $105 million translates to about 200 jobs, sir.
Yes, and it's not included the smart grid if you look in there.
Yeah, but the smart grid you're talking about is a different initiative, and that was rejected by the DOE.
No, I'm not talking about this.
Okay, can you talk to the committee and?
I'm sorry. If you look at the spreadsheet right there, it would have only the three grants that they have, which is the Safe Drinking Water suit, but then there's also the Smart Grid demonstration or project, which they have projected jobs of about 200. And that's what is not included in the spreadsheet.
Should it be? So, it should be included, right?
It's not included in the CLA spreadsheet.
But it should be.
It should be
Okay,
included.
so we can update it. But again, I think we need to understand, not just the city jobs, but jobs in total. I don't see any place where you can list the number of jobs created. Am I missing that on this form? Oh, here it is.
It's
What is
on
the
there,
total
sir.
number? They're just not listed? There are no numbers? Yeah, but there's nothing there.
That's what they responded.
Okay. Oh, wait, is this 3.13 permanent FTEs?
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Here, you're saying that there were a total of 5.29 jobs created, and you just said that there were 200.
Yes, sir.
So I'm a little confused.
This is the first time I've seen this. It's 200 jobs, about 170
How did
from
we
the
get
Smart-
these numbers?
We got those numbers directly from the department.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, there's obviously a disconnect here. You didn't get them from Mr. Avila, that's for sure.
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yeah, the reports that we've provided have jobs totaling 200. The CAO just said 200, so I don't know what to say, sir. I'm giving the same information to both organizations.
Do you have a separate report that,
No, sir.
is it a verbal thing that he gave you, or?
No, I have it on the spreadsheet.
This spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The-
but he says he's not familiar with this spreadsheet.
Yeah, I sent them I did send the DWP that spreadsheet, specifically Joe Avila.
Today,
No, that was a few weeks ago.
this spreadsheet.
No, not that, the information, the questions. I then took the questions and put them onto one sheet, but it's the same responses that I got back
Okay,
from the
I don't-
departments.
I just want to make sure that we have accurate numbers. Where would you put your 200?
I would put it, as soon as we complete negotiations with the DOE for the smart grid demonstration, I would change this number down here, the 3.13, sir,
Mhm.
to about 200, sir.
Okay, and what about the Air Grant 3, safe drinking water?
Those are all, I believe, all the water projects, I believe, are reflected in this 3.3. And again, as I mentioned earlier, those projects tend to be more bricks and mortar as opposed to
Wait a
graffiti
minute,
removal.
3.3 jobs?
I believe that's the correct number, yes, sir. Those are for water projects, and they are mostly trunk line replacements and, bricks and mortar. It's unfortunately,
I see.
depending on the kind of work it is, sir, the focus on those particular projects is more on infrastructure than on like a graffiti removal, where there'd be considerably more jobs created.
Well, I know we need work on the infrastructure, but we also need to create job stimulus.
Understand, sir. We don't come up with a criteria, we just respond to it, and the criteria called for a certain number of jobs, and the focus of that particular project has.
Is there
to do more
anything to
with
prohibit that you create more jobs out of that?
So far as I know, it comported with the rules of the award.
Okay, every time I ask that question and we go back and check the rules,
Yes, sir.
we find out that you could have asked for more.
Okay.
That's typically what happens. The problem is the focus isn't there on creating jobs, and what I'm saying is it needs to be.
Yes, sir.
So as we move forward and you're looking at 2 more grants and then others may come down the pipeline, I just want to make sure you're focused on job creation, not just for the benefit of DWP, but for the benefit of Los Angeles
Absolutely.
as a whole. The priority for the federal administration in implementing the ARA grant is to create jobs. There's no question about that. It's national policy. And when we create grant, even though we're getting the money, but we're only creating 3 jobs with $50 million, I mean, that's that doesn't make any sense, particularly when our unemployment rate is approaching 14%.
All right, right.
So, and these are good middle-class jobs, so,
I guess the good news for these is we did have the LEEDC study that showed that it was several hundred jobs would be created across the economy. It's just
Yeah,
for
but
the
that's-
department
but
itself,
that's-
it's 3 jobs, sir.
yeah, but that's not direct. And to the extent we can create direct jobs, I want to.
Yeah.
And so I would urge you, so first of all, I would like you to amend this report as soon as you can and
Okay.
give us more accurate figures. And then secondly, as you apply for grants in the future, I would like to know what the maximum number of jobs you can create is. And then I think you should apply for that in some way, shape, or form to the extent you can. Obviously, there may be other reasons why it's prohibited. Okay, I want to move on because I know Mr. Parks wants to leave by 2:30, and so do I. So I'm going to move on to environmental affairs.
Beth Gines, Assistant General Manager of Environmental Affairs, along with Gretchen Hardison, who is was our climate.
What number?
First one.
On the matrix, it's number one, the first one.
Environmental Affairs has been the lead for the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant, which was the $37 million in formula funding for the city. We applied for the funding in the fall, and we received the award 2 weeks ago. We are projecting a total of 250 public and private jobs being created or retained in the city. And the breakdown of that are 13 jobs retained in the city workforce, 7 new jobs created in the city workforce, 175 private jobs retained, and 52 created in the private workforce. Be happy to answer any questions.
I'm sorry, go ahead. You done?
I am.
Okay. So 250 jobs, public and private, but it says estimated 59 to be created. Oh, so
Those would be new jobs.
191 are current jobs that are being retained? So 175, oh, I see, here they are.
Yeah, 13 jobs are retained in the city and 175 private jobs would be.
Okay. So the 52 and the 7 add up to 59,
Mhm.
and then the 13 and 175 add up to 198. The math isn't exact, but it's pretty darn close. And do you anticipate any grants coming that, now how's this going to work if your department is no longer in existence? Are different functions going to take over this grantsmanship?
Yes, the 2 of our staff who are the lead, Gretchen and Craig Tranby, who are the lead from Environmental Affairs, have transferred to the Department of Water and Power, and then the lead, or this fund will also transfer over there for administration when the council acts on the elimination of environmental affairs.
Okay, so we'll have coverage on the environmental.
Yes.
Now, you will be spearheading the DWP effort, but are we going to have coverage in other areas of the environment in terms of the potential grants that may come down?
We hope so. The request is to transfer the administration of this entire block grant with Craig and myself, and to also keep our eyes open for
Yeah, but this is
grant
just
opportunities.
energy efficiency and conservation.
Yes.
The environmental concerns go far beyond that. So I'm talking about those that aren't relative to DWP, things that DWP wouldn't be notified for. Who's going to cover all those grants?
We have 9 or 10 staff that will be transferred to Bureau of Sanitation, and those functions that you're mentioning will go along with those folks to sanitation, with the expectation that they will continue performing the same functions that they have.
So what if it's trees, planting trees? Sanitation doesn't do that.
Sanitation will be doing that, and they're actually been very...
Sanitation is going to be doing trees?
Yes. The functions that Environmental Affairs had done with trees before, which is supporting the Million Trees program, and we usually bring in a couple of $1 million a year in grants to plant trees, and that will move over to sanitation.
Okay. Okay, so you're saying that all the areas that cover the environment will be covered?
I doubt that all the areas that cover the environment will be covered, but...
Like rec and parks, I mean, they're doing their own, or?
Rec and Parks, we've coordinated with them. They do have an environmental unit within Rec and Parks that does a lot of their own work. Then we coordinate with them on specific projects or specific areas such as the Chatsworth Park, which is sort of a larger environmental issue.
Okay.
And that coordination will continue.
Okay, I'm going to move forward to Housing Department.
Good afternoon. Rushmore Cervantes with the Housing Department. The department has requested approximately $142 million in grant funds and has received roughly $135 million, comprised of 3 programs, the first of which is...
You did pretty well, huh? You got most of your money. Everybody else is waiting.
We did pretty well. We were very fortunate. The first one is the Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing, which consists of $29.5 million. From that, we created 1 city position, and that was utilized to offset a general funded position from the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. The remaining 29 positions are utilized in the LASA as well as HACLA, which has about 3.5 full-time equivalents, and the rest is dispersed amongst 9 other nonprofit organizations that will be utilized to carry out those services and hire that staff. The next one is the Neighborhood Stabilization 2 program, which is for $100 million. 10% of that would be for admin, the rest for program delivery. The department is still working on its transmittal to request authority to receive the grants, along with a proposal for the administrative support for that program.
Okay, so most of that is grant funded to community-based organizations?
It'll go primarily to one nonprofit organization that was created by the Housing Department. The monies will be funneled through that organization, and then from there, they will, through their competitive selection process, identify organizations to do the acquisition of the properties, rehabilitate, and sell the properties to new home buyers.
So you're going to, so it depends on the sort of a craftsman that you hire to do the work. Sort of depends on what's wrong with the house you buy?
That is correct.
How many houses do you think you'll be able to restore?
Approximately 300.
300.
Could be more.
Now, this is going to create a revolving fund, right?
Yes, it will, Councilman. And the target right here is a 3-year program, but there will be program income that will come through that. So we anticipate that window will probably be in the range of about 6, maybe 7 years that we'll be able to recycle the monies through the system.
Why wouldn't you be able to just continue it in perpetuity?
That's what we've targeted at this point.
You're rehabbing these houses, selling them, I'm assuming for a higher price. Is that correct?
Well, yes and no. See, the department is investing into the property itself. It's not going to recoup all its money on all of the investment, because there is a carryback where the department has to carry money in order to make the property affordable. So we're buying properties that are low priced, that need a lot of work, then we put the money in. So as an example, if we buy a property for, say, $120,000, we're putting in a tremendous amount of investment into that property to rehabilitate as well as make it energy efficient. So that cost could range anywhere from $270,000 to $300,000. With that, we sell it for $250,000. We have to carry the $50,000. So as we go on down the line, we're going to have less monies recycled. Eventually they'll be repaid, but it won't be in a steady stream that we would have seen the first few years subsequent to the 3-year grant.
Okay. Let me ask you, on the funds, when you carry it, it's only, you get it back when they sell the house, or is there a timeline, or what?
Only when the house is sold or title is changed or they refinance.
One thing I was going to ask you, I think we put a motion in asking for a report back on the status of the neighborhood stabilization.
Number one. Actually, I have that rough draft today, and we should be able to release that sometime early next week, Councilman. It'll lay out the success of the program so far, of the $32 million and the progress to date.
And when you said 300 houses, that's for the first phase, or for the 300? You said, is that the 30 million?
Well, we're talking about 300 homes. We anticipate for NSP2 $100 million through the 3 years. About 1,200 units. That's going to be a combination of single-family homes as well as multifamily.
But when you say 300, that's the first 30 million.
That's correct. And then lastly...
Well, before you go on,
Yes.
want to say, I would anticipate that some of these houses are going to be sold for a profit.
Well, we'll see, because we're buying into depressed areas and fixing them up. Again, we're putting a tremendous amount of investment into the property. I don't know that we're going to be making a tremendous profit on those. In some instances, we're going to be selling them to low-income or moderate-income first-time home buyers, and as such, they can only afford so much as well. So there'll be a form of a carryback there as well.
Okay.
So we're not going to be making a profit on it.
All right.
The last grant that we will soon be receiving is for the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. This is going to be administered, or at least this is going to be accepted by the Environmental Affairs Department, and the department had requested $12.4 million. We're going to receive $5.4 million from that, so that should be coming to us shortly as well.
If the environmental department is non-existent, then who does it?
Well, it'll be a matter of which department has been will be authorized to be the administrator of the, I believe it's $39 million total in energy efficiency block grant dollars. The Housing Department is a subrecipient of that $39 million block grant. So we would report back to whichever department is designated as the lead agency.
Okay, and how is this program going to work in terms of job creation? Are you going to farm it out to nonprofits again? Or? This is sort of like a handy worker program, a weatherization program?
We're going to farm this out to nonprofits throughout the city.
Okay. I don't see any cards on this. Did you have any further questions? Well, I would ask that as the numbers come in, you keep us apprised.
Certainly. Well, certainly for the NSP2 program, when we come to the committee and council to request authority to execute the contract, we'll have details as far as the staffing plan for both the city as well as for the nonprofit.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. We're going to stay on it. Please remember to keep focus on job creation. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is a motion, Alarcon Parks, relative to directing the CLA to report on specific ways that jurisdictions similar to LA applied for and administered funds in connection with ERA and related matters.
Good afternoon, Chris Concepcion with the Office of the Chief Legislative Analyst. The item before you was first heard in this committee on February 9th, and as you'll recall, you received a verbal report from our office as our written report had not been released, which detailed the preliminary findings of other cities' American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds, otherwise known as ARA, programs as they related to job creation and retention. The written report before you further expands on the verbal report and states that in order to implement the intent of the request of the motion, it's necessary to use a comparative jobs total when comparing other cities' ARA programs. And what this means is that we controlled for factors in other cities' job reports, which are categories or subjects for which the City of Los Angeles does not qualify. For this report, our office examined the ARA programs of the City of Chicago, the New York City, and San Francisco. Through information obtained through the staff of each city and through some quantitative reasoning based on submitted information, the comparative job totals for each city are as follows. The City of Chicago has a comparative job total of 2,927. New York City has a comparative job total of 76. And San Francisco has a comparative job total of 1,075, as compared to the City of Los Angeles, which was 1,207 at the time of this writing. When examining the information on the other cities' ARA programs, we took a closer look at the City of Chicago's model, as they had the most substantial number of comparative jobs total. The City of Chicago's model is not much different than the City of Los Angeles, except that Chicago has made more concrete relationships with stakeholders and nonprofit agencies and consulting groups, as they take part in each work group throughout the evaluation of the proposals for ARA funding. Additionally, 2 consulting firms facilitate these work group meetings. Despite this finding, there is still a correlation between Chicago's comparative jobs total and their legislative priority, as discussed with the Mayor's Office of Chicago. And this is consistent with our verbal report as we stated to you on February 9th, which was that Chicago has made job creation and retention the main priority in evaluating their ARA projects for ARA funding. And overall, this has driven the evaluation process of projects which were selected by Chicago's working groups for submittal for ARA funding. So lastly, in the report before you, our recommendation has remained the same as our preliminary recommendations, which would be to set aside job creation and retention of the list of guiding principles as the main priority in evaluating potential ARA projects, if the council wishes for that to be the main priority, as well as concur with the proposal of the CAO, which was to create a Tiger team to more closely work with departments to ensure that expenditures and proposed projects for ARA funds reflect the priority of job creation and retention and are executed expeditiously.
I was already under the impression we had done that in previous committee action.
I'm not sure if it was sent forward to the ad hoc committee or not.
This item has not been sent forward yet. We drew it back. We did take action on February 9th and made two basic recommendations at that point. So
how do we?
So if you wish to stay with those that you made on February 9th, you can do that, or modify them, or add on.
Are they identical, or are they a little bit different?
We have here, recommendation number 1 was to modify council action of April 17, 2009 for council file 09-0648 as follows. Set apart the principles of job creation and job retention with emphasis on city employees as the top priority, separate from all other principles as expressed in council's action of April 7, 2009, and further designate job creation and job retention as the top priorities in connection with the evaluation of proposed projects and uses of ARA funds. Additionally, the committee recommended directing the city administrative officer to report back to committee in 2 weeks in regard to creating an ARA Tiger team composed of budget analysts and other relevant personnel that would be responsible for working with city departments to review existing project plans and assist in the development of project plans and working with departments to remove barriers and obstacles to rapid project launches.
So we already approved that, and we sent it to who?
That would then next go to the ad hoc committee on economic recovery and reinvestment.
Did that happen?
No, that has not happened yet.
Oh, okay. Well, we're on the same page. I just want to make sure can we just attach the two?
Yeah, if we should go with these, we just simply send it forward, and then when they're done with it, they may concur with us or have something different, and we prepare reports and then send it.
But with regard to the recommendations that are now being made by the CLA?
Yes, those, our recommendations are consistent with the recommendations this committee made on February 9th.
So should we attach the two? How do we do this?
For some reason that item was not posted to file. It appears that we pretty much are saying the same thing, which is substantially in this report now. We can simply turn this into a committee report. We'll have to forward it to the ad hoc committee for them to deal with it, and then when they're done with theirs, we can send it.
Yeah, I thought that's what we did.
Okay. Then we can go ahead and do that, and then when they're done with it, then we'll have our report and they'll have theirs.
Okay, great.
All right, then we'll continue with the recommendations of February 9th.
Mr. Parks, any questions? No. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, what item number are we on? 4.
Item number 4 is a motion, Alarcon Cardenas, relative to business improvement districts that were not renewed for 2010 and related matters.
Good afternoon, Clay McCarter, the Office of the CLA. On January 26th, your committee directed the CLA to report on the expiration of the Toy District Business Improvement District. And in this report, we provide you with a history of the district, why it expired, and we also recommend 3 options to improve the city's bid program. The Toy District was first initiated in 1998, and it expired at December 31st, 2009. And we spoke with the Central City East Association, which managed the district, and they reported that of why it expired, a majority of the property owners decided not to renew because they could not justify the assessment rates during this economic crisis. they felt that the assessments paid for services that to be provided by the city, such as trash removal. And in order to improve the Business Improvement District program, we provided you with 3 options. Option 1 is to redesign the city clerk's bid website to make it more user-friendly. Option 2 is to designate a city employee to serve as the city's bid ombudsperson. And option 3 is to provide bids with business services provided from the Community Development Department. And we have 3 recommendations. As this report was submitted after the posting of the agenda, I'll read the recommendations into the record. Recommendation number 1 is to direct the city clerk to review, redesign, and update the city clerk's Business Improvement District website to make it more user-friendly. Recommendation number 2 is to direct the Community Development Department to designate a Business Improvement District ombudsperson. And number 3 is to direct the Community Development Department and request the Office of the Mayor to enhance the marketing of its business services to the Business Improvement Districts.
I don't have any problems with that. Did you have any? No, because does every council district have a business improvement district?
I don't think, Miranda. Okay.
So 14 of them do? And one of them, which one doesn't?
I've provided.
I know that's not true. I'm 7.
I think your district has 1.
The question is whether or not every council district should have a business improvement district person
In their office.
It's the liaison on all business improvement districts.
What we've heard from the bids is there's a problem with the communication between, if there's an issue in the district, between that issue and resolving it at City Hall.
Well, let me do that. Let me do this. Let me just go ahead and move this request. We adopt the CLA report. I concur with all your recommendations, but I would add that we request all council members to designate one staff person as their business improvement district liaison, and to send the name of that liaison and their contact information to. Actually, it says that to the city clerk's office, but I'm thinking it should go to CDD.
The city clerk's office, it can go to both because the city clerk's office manages.
Okay, let's make it both to be posted on the business improvement district website as well. Okay, I think we're, any objections? Any comments, questions? Okay, we're good. Okay, what items are remaining?
Item number 6 would be next, since we consented item 5.
Okay, item number 6. This is the anti-hunger report. Is this our last item?
I believe we also have item 10 and 11.
Okay,
are also
thank you.
pending.
Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, I'm Felipe Chavez with the CLA's office. Our report is in response to motion Corretz Alarcon, which instructed our office to review a report by the Jewish Federation entitled Hungry No More, A Blueprint to End Hunger in Los Angeles, and to report to council with any recommendations that could be further explored and on which city departments would be best suited to carry out such efforts. Additionally, we were requested to report on which the city departments are coordinating anti-hunger programs and the steps necessary to expand such programs. The blueprint basically offers an overview of various issues associated with hunger, including access to food and access to healthier food options. It establishes 3 general goals which have to do with declaring the city a hunger-free community, improving food assistance programs, and increasing access to nutritious food. As a result of our research, we found that the city has been implementing nutrition programs that assist seniors, youth, and families. Most recently, the city has taken an active role in funding programs related to healthier nutrition, community gardens, and food retail assistance. In September 2009, the mayor's office established a preliminary food policy task force, which will be studying issues associated with food retail, community gardens, and emergency food networks. This task force will also report on the need for the formation of a formal food policy council. On November 16th, 2009, the council also adopted a resolution declaring the city a hunger-free community, which basically reaffirmed the city's commitment to ending and battling hunger. Currently, there are city departments implementing food assistance, such as the Community Development Department, Recreation and Parks, the Department of Aging, and the CRA. Additionally, through the consolidated plan, the city allocates funds to city departments operating food programs such as Allie's Best, Family Source Centers, and the Fresh Food Access Program. We are recommending that further respond to the motion, departments report to council with more detailed information, and we also recommend that the members of the Food Policy Task Force report to the council with their findings.
Okay, we have several cards on this item. So let's start with Jessica. Jessica Jones. After Jessica, we have David Lee. I said several, there were two. Oh, are these also?
Two right there.
There are more. Go ahead, Jessica.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Jones, and I work with the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank. First off, I'm excited to see the commitment that the City of Los Angeles is showing in addressing the issue of hunger in our community. It's very encouraging to know that we have partners on all levels. As an employee of the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank, this is an issue that I see daily. As noted in the report on page 6, the food bank serves approximately 10% of LA County residents, and that's approximately 1 million people. We've seen a 46% increase over the past 4 years and a 34% increase in the last year alone. We're currently distributing 1 million pounds of food a week through our pantry network. That's 52 million pounds a year, and we're not meeting the need. In reading over the report of the Chief Legislative Analyst, I noticed that the food stamp program was mentioned in Councilmember Koretz's motion, but not elsewhere. I understand that the food stamp program is run by the County of Los Angeles, but every dollar in food stamp benefits generates $1.84 in other economic activity. And I would encourage the council to look for ways to support the food stamp program and see how we could expand accessibility to that program for Los Angeles residents.
Okay, thank you very much.
Be happy to answer any questions.
David Lee. After David, we have Matthew Sharp.
Good afternoon. My name is David Lee. I work for the Jewish Federation's Fed Up with Hunger initiative, which our mission is to help end hunger in Los Angeles. An easy goal, to say the least. We convene partners including the California Food Policy Advocates and the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank in the authorship of this blueprint to end hunger, which the the Legislative Office has reported back on. I would like to thank Councilmember Koretz, who is not here, and the committee to listen to this motion, for taking up this motion today. We are in difficult economic times, and obviously very difficult choices are going to have to be made. However, it's important to remember that food is at the base of all human function. When kids are hungry, they don't learn, and they're more disruptive. When workers are hungry, they have a harder time. They're less productive at work. They develop more health conditions. So hunger is more than simply just a physical pain alerting us that we need to eat. It actually is a feedback loop, a poverty feedback loop that actually perpetuates the issue, the scourge of poverty in our city. This document obviously offers a blueprint to end hunger. We are hoping that the city will remain willing partners in this with the LAUSD and the county. We remain willing and able partners in this as well. And just as a brief note, the Los Angeles Urban Rural Roundtable will be presenting its recommendations to the mayor and the Food Policy Council on Thursday at a meeting, I think, at 10 o'clock. Their anti-hunger recommendations dovetail very nicely with ours. And going forward, it's really, really important that we begin to coordinate a lot of these efforts and develop the implementation strategies so that we don't duplicate efforts, but rather maximize our community's anti-hunger efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Matthew Sharp.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Matthew Sharp. I work with California Food Policy Advocates. We're a statewide nonprofit organization that works on low-income nutrition programs. I worked in our Los Angeles office since 1997, and I'm very familiar with a number of the efforts underway at a state, county, local, and federal level to mitigate hunger among low-income households. We've had an opportunity to partner with the previous speakers on this blueprint. We had a couple reactions to the CLA's report and some recommendations we wanted to briefly summarize for you here. As it relates to the purview of this committee, it's important to note that poverty and hunger are really the consequences of unemployment, underemployment, and low-wage positions. And so those can be remedied in small part by the efforts that you have underway around hiring and job creation, but only if the funds are targeted to creating modest salary jobs that generate more jobs per dollar. And this came up in the previous agenda item. The Federal Inspector General of Recovery noted the best way to create new jobs is people on the edge with low-wage child care and education entry-level positions. That will help fight hunger in our community, and so that's within your purview. Second, want to note that the CLA's report briefly describes the nutrition programs and services provided by the city. Given that these are almost entirely 100% federally funded, it's notable the report doesn't describe all the steps that could be taken to expand them, both to draw down money from the federal government and to better fund positions within the city. One obvious example is your worksource resource centers. They can be greatly enhanced to better enroll families in food stamps and some of the school nutrition resources, as can hundreds of other contact points that residents have with the city. And our third reaction is in the context of what you were doing prior to this hearing, which is evaluating what are the steps taken to close the budget gap. It is important to note that in the 4,000 positions you may consider taking away are 100% of the staff that distribute meals through the city's child nutrition programs. So we recommend that you establish a mechanism to preserve the staff positions that are passing through 100% federal dollars in order to preserve basic nutrition assistance programs and not make this crisis much, much worse by eliminating the programs entirely to close the budget deficit.
Thank you.
Let me just ask one question.
Yes.
A good deal of your comments dealt with what maybe government should be doing. What's going on in association with private industry in the sense of grocery stores and attracting them into communities where they've abandoned and things of that nature?
There's an incredible amount of activity underway in that area. Both yourself and Councilmember Perry have introduced a variety of motions and incentives that have attracted new retailers. A great deal of effort is underway to identify what changes are needed at a city, county, and state policy level. The federal government is offering in the 2011 budget $400 million in revolving loan funds to try and incentivize new grocers. It's a very entrepreneurial field, and we anticipate a lot of progress in closing the food access gaps in many of your neighborhoods in the coming years.
What budget? You said the state budget?
The federal government, no, not the state budget. The federal government has proposed, I should say, as part of the president's proposed budget for 2011, the USDA appropriations bill would include $400 million of new money that would be available to attract and or convert corner convenience stores into serving healthier foods. A lot of good work in that direction is happening.
Thank you.
Is any of that dedicated to California?
There is nothing in the appropriations language that would explicitly identify California as a recipient. The state is very interested in putting together a plan. Speaker Perez has already contacted us around some of the details this week to possibly put together an attractive state plan, but it wouldn't be singled out in the federal appropriation.
We should do the same. What can we do, after hearing first of all, I'd like to get, Mr. Chavez, your reaction to all the testimony in terms of any desire to modify your report. But secondly, on this allocation of $400 million from the Obama administration, which I just heard about this morning as well, and what kind of strategic plan does the city of Los Angeles have? And perhaps we want to strategically align ourselves with the county. I don't know. But do we have any efforts in place to go after that money strategically?
With regards to, we have several recommendations actually asking the departments to come back regarding any possibility of expanding their programs. So that is addressed in the report. With regards to any federal funding, we can report back to you with that information.
Well, I'm not asking for the information. I'm asking for a strategic plan on how we're going to get it. What is the city going to do to strategically go after that $400 million?
I understand the question, sir. I am not currently working on that issue right now, but we can report back with the strategy.
Yeah, because the city's legislative analyst needs to give us that kind of information. That's exactly what we have a legislative analyst for, is
Correct.
to identify potentials from wherever, actually, but in this case, from the federal government. I mean, don't we have a CLA's office in D.C.?
Yes, we do.
And Mr. Seeley is over there, and now we have a replacement coming in, and it seems to me this should be a top priority in terms of telling us how we can access that money. So I'm going to continue this and ask that you come back with a report, and maybe Mr. Parks and I can work on some kind of resolution that we can get to council as quickly as possible to expedite our participation in going after that money. Okay, so I'm going to continue this until the next meeting, because this is something we really need to move on quickly. Hold on. I'm sorry, what did you say? Oh, okay. So what I would want is also, you mentioned something, Jessica, on tying the food stamps into our report somehow. I wasn't exactly clear where that
We'll work
was.
with CDD to address that issue as well.
Okay, I think our 1AAP process is one of the ways that we are tying into
Be very interested.
into the food stamp program. It should be, but I believe they're already hooked in. So the food stamp program should already be hooked into 1EAP, and it's just a question of our service provider. They're not.
The food stamp program is the only portion of 1EAP that requires the applicant to print out the paper materials and still walk them into the county office. So the patch is much weaker there than it is in the other components of 1EAP.
No, but the point is that they're in the 1EAP system, so our service providers should be helping the recipients go through that process.
It can be significantly strengthened to increase the outcomes in several important ways. The county has acknowledged this gap, and by formally moving to establish a partnership, I believe you can increase the application rates and the effectiveness of those applications. When you add an extra step to the process, as you know from your work on these eligibility programs in Sacramento, that's where you lose people. And so 1EAP does a great job of ensuring enrollment in the health insurance and EITC portions, but the food stamp applicants drop off due to this extra hurdle.
So how do you resolve that?
Well, the county has been willing to offer a new process, and I don't know how much of today you want to spend working through that, but there's a parallel motion that Mr. Yaroslavsky has introduced that is compelling the
No, but
Department
I'm
of
saying,
Public Service.
how does the city improve? I mean, what can we do to improve when it's the county that's got?
I think the first thing the city can do is agree to work together with the county on making this process work better.
Okay, so then including your report, first of all, I mentioned that we would encourage the county to adjust its food stamp program relative to 1EAP to allow us to expedite applications as opposed to lose them. And secondly, what can we do to further our relationship with the food stamp program with regard to our service providers, typically our family source centers and all the other programs that we work with.
Okay.
So then you'll come back with all those things in the next report. We're just going to continue this matter, allow you to adjust your report, bring it back in the next 2 weeks. Okay.
Right. And a resolution.
Yes, thank you much. And Mr. Parks, I know you have to leave. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, next time. I think I skipped over speaker on item number 1, Alejandra Marroquin. Did you want to speak? I apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, I read it as number 1. Okay. So we're moving to item number 10. Okay.
Item number 10 is a motion, Courage-Lebon's, which relative to the formation of the 3rd Street Business Improvement District, and we've been instructed by the clerk that it needs to be amended to give it proper language so they can go ahead and begin the formation process. I've also been informed that we'll need to read the amending part of the motion into the record. So with your permission.
Please do.
Okay. I therefore move that the City Council instruct the City Clerk and request the City Attorney to provide the necessary assistance to begin the formation of the 3rd Street BID. I further move that the City Council, subject to approval of the Mayor, number 1, allocate up to $40,000 from the Business Improvement District Trust Fund number 659, subject to terms and conditions as described in the City's bid policy documents, to be used for professional consulting services, including to collect, categorize, and interpret data, to design and conduct interviews and surveys, to organize meetings and prioritize community needs, to identify and develop alternative assessment district boundaries and formulas, to prepare all required reports and documents, to create a nonprofit service provider as necessary, and to coordinate the process to establish the proposed 3rd Street Business and Business District. Number 2, authorize the City Clerk to accept $40,000 from the 3rd Street Business Association or other entity as matching funds for the consultant's study. Number 3, authorize the City Clerk to issue an RFP for the hiring of a consultant and to prepare, execute, and administer a contract between the City and the selected consultant, subject to the approval of the City Attorney as to form and legality, in an amount not to exceed $80,000 for consultant activities and expenses for the process to establish the proposed 3rd Street bid. I further move that the City Clerk be authorized to make clarifications or technical corrections to the above funding transfer instructions as may be necessary to implement the intent of this motion.
Okay, having lost the quorum, we can't send this with a majority report, but I will send it forward with my recommendation for approval.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay. Item number 11. We have one card on this item. Alejandra? Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, council member. My name is Alejandra Marroquin. I'm the Echo Park Field Deputy for Council District 13. I have a short statement to read. City Council President Eric Garcetti supports the formation of the Echo Park bid. We expect that this bid will provide the next critical step in revitalizing the Echo Park Commercial District. The property and business owners have worked diligently in building support for the creation of the Echo Park bid. Once it's up and running, we can expect noticeable improvements, including better street maintenance, security, and various beautification efforts. Echo Park is already a destination in the city of Los Angeles. The improvements a bid will bring to Echo Park's commercial district will translate into a higher quality experience to local residents and visiting neighbors while strengthening the economic viability of the businesses it serves. Thank you.
Thank you. We voted all the bids out on consent. Unfortunately, I lost my majorities, so I'll be happy to send that on with a recommendation for approval as a communication from the chair. Any other questions? Any answers? Any comments? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.